Welcome to the comic.
What's going on, nerds? This is Mike,
This is Bill.
and we got Raedyn in the
I'm Raedyn. Woo!
Welcome back.
Yeah,
Thank you very
welcome
much.
back to the show,
Super excited
bro.
to be back. I love being here.
Talking about the Last Ronin. Yes,
The Last
I almost
Ronin.
forgot what we were talking about.
Yep. Took a long while for that to get the whole story out there.
Dude,
Oh my gosh.
Production issues, COVID.
If you've been waiting through like even the teasers, it's been like 3 to 5 years.
yeah, and it's only 5 books,
I know.
and they're not even that long. So, and it took
It's a
the
decent
better part of a
graphic
year and a
novel.
half, right?
Yeah. Took a long
Like
time.
a year and a half at least.
It was that 5th edition. I'm happy they took their time.
When did
They
the
did it
first?
right, yeah.
When did the first book drop? Do you know the date on that?
Great question. They also delayed the first book drop. I think, yeah, the first and the last book drop got delayed.
It's
Well, yeah, the last one did for sure. I think it was like
suggested for mature readers only.
mature.
Mature.
Okay, keep going.
Mature.
Keep going, because I'm looking this up real quick.
Oh, that's smart. I should have just done that.
But before we get into the spoilers, because we're gonna totally do
Oh.
deep dive on
Oc-
this.
100%
October.
spoiling
Okay,
this.
October 28th, 2020 was the first issue.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out that August.
Okay,
Yeah, I remember
So-
that because I was waiting so impatiently.
dude. Yeah, so 2 years
Whack.
it took for 5 books to come out.
And 3 years of teasing it.
Yeah, teasing it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we should get into check this shit out. You had something for us that you wanted to talk about, right, Bill?
So yeah, with New York Comic Con that just came out, they've announced a lot more things that are happening. So we're getting a few new comic books. I have to pull this up on my cheat sheet yet. I wasn't ready for this
Why?
because I was getting ready for something else.
Uh,
There's no why, there is.
man, we're all sorts unprepared this time.
It's cool to fix it in post,
Yeah, yeah, we can.
There is no post.
which is what makes that statement so much better.
Yeah. But well, I first saw it and I thought there were a bunch of movies that are coming out. I have it on my computer right here. That's where I had it.
Oh, that's cool. I thought I'd turn my phone now.
So at the New York Comic Con, they announced there's going to be a second season of The Wheel of Time show.
Have you guys seen it?
I've slept through it every time I've tried to watch
Oh
it.
my gosh, it's a beautiful train wreck.
Is
I-
it?
It's okay if you like the show and the creators and the actors on it, you're all doing your job, and I appreciate for that. I don't know anything about Wheel of Time. I don't know anything about what it's based off of. The show itself is like the effects were really cool those first couple episodes, and then like the storyline, like corny. All of it's so corny, and it's just
I've tried to watch it 3 times and fell asleep every
It's
single
a-
time.
it's
Yeah,
a
even the book. I tried reading the first book a while ago. It was maybe 5 years ago, and I couldn't even get through the first book. And I can make it through most books.
it's a mystery science theater show for
And I
sure.
was
So if
like,
you're gonna
what?
watch it, won't be serious.
One that I am
Well,
excited.
The book, I couldn't even finish it. I was like, "What are we doing here?" And I just gave up like halfway through. I was like, "Fuck this," because it's just like we should walk a lot and we should talk a lot and then we should like kind of do some stuff, but not really.
Oof.
And it's just it was like a slog.
What do we have in cooler news?
So another one, good.
Yeah, for sure.
Neil Gaiman's Good Omens season 2 got a sneak peek.
Oh, dope.
So that was a really good series. A little bit cheesy at a few point in time, but it was
Most good
worth a
things
watch.
are.
Dude.
Doom Patrol, Titans, Tim Burton's Wednesday.
I am low key excited for Wednesday.
That's
The
looking interesting.
actress who's gonna play Wednesday, I forget her name. It escapes me at the moment, but she's awesome. She's like a really good actress. She's really good at what she does.
Walking Dead is teasing something.
Again,
Midnight Club. Muppets.
Yay.
Yeah. Chucky season 2. I don't know.
Chucky. Chucky has a show.
Chucky 2 promises more Chucky than ever. I don't know. I'm just reading off their headlines here. Gizmodo.
I just remember that like Mark Hamill played him in the last movie. I didn't know that they had a whole show.
Did he really?
Yeah, he was the voice of Chucky.
Oh my god.
It was really different though. Chucky was not a murderer, and that I mean he was, but it wasn't like he was a murderer trapped in a doll's body. It was just a doll gone rogue.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Then missed it.
Mm.
Did you see the new Super Mario Brothers trailer?
High key excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
No, I
for
haven't.
It.
Is it cool?
I haven't
looking or
watched
what?
it either.
Oh, it's so cool. Everyone's hating on Chris Pratt for
Yeah.
not going wahoo, but like I don't want to sit through an hour and a half or 2 hours of that. So
Of him going, yeah, no shit.
I'm happy that he's just doing, and also like
or none of that.
I take no offense as an Italian American to Mario because like respect the game, but as an Italian American, it's a lot less offensive I feel to just talk like a human.
yeah.
Although I would love the man who voices Mario is in the cast list, so I would love to hear the classic Mario. I
Yeah.
think that'd be really like a fun moment, but for a whole movie, I think that would be a travesty.
Well, it'd be fucking a train wreck to listen to over and over.
Yeah,
As to him, woohoo!
yeah. I'm sure it's like it's made
He
for
probably
kids, so
doesn't-
they
Well,
wouldn't mind.
Unless you're pushing the buttons, no.
Yeah,
You don't.
I'm sure like the kids wouldn't mind, and you got to keep in mind when they make movies like this. All of
Yeah,
us are
they're
like,
for
oh,
kids."
nostalgia, but like I think that's a huge.
It's not for us.
It's not for us. Like Teletubbies. When I was little, I was a Teletubbies kid, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's terrible." And everyone asked my parents, like, "How do you let your kids watch that?" They're like, "It's simple. We don't watch it. We just let the kids watch it because that's for them."
well, right?
So
Exactly.
I hope Mario does bring out the nostalgia that we
If
need.
anything, it's gonna be way better than the what was it, the 90s?
All the movies that have ever come out for
the
Mario.
90s Mario movie. Anything's
There's
gonna
been
be better
bad.
than that.
Oh my gosh, what do you
The
mean?
cartoons are okay, but
Oh, they're so half
So
live
bad.
action, half animated. They're terrible, and I love them.
Well, there was like a 90s one too,
Yeah.
and that wasn't terrible. My son used to watch it actually when he was real little. He really loved that show.
I could just hear all the cigarettes in that Mario's voice. That's all
Well,
I really
and then
remember
they
about
had-
it.
And then they had like a live action Mario.
Yeah, it was
but
like
it looked like
it was half and half. So they would do
it
like
was like a homeless looking dude, and it didn't look like what you would think Mario would be at all.
it was
He
great.
looked like some dude they grabbed off the street and were like,
Literally looked like a
"Put these
hobo.
on."
It was awesome.
go.
Look,
jump.
It was awesome for all the wrong reasons. It was so terrible. I love it.
It was pretty funny. Anyway,
So on the comic news, now this is what I was looking for when I started off. So there's new comic series. I got excited thinking that these were all movies. Wrong. These are comics that are coming out in 22, 23. Still some decent ones. So Avengers Assemble is going to be a theme that's going to be coming out. So that's going to be Jason Aaron, who's been writing a lot of the Avengers comics. That's pretty solid. So that'll be something that I'll be looking forward to. And then they're doing a lot of Mr. Sinister with Sins of Sinister coming out in January. And also in December of 2022, Dark Web. So we're getting some more evil Spider-Man multiverse thing, I'm guessing.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know. And then Summer of Symbiotes in 2023, Captain America Cold War. And then they're still teasing the fall of Krakoa and fall of X in summer 2023. Which is why I stopped giving a shit about the X-Men comics, because the end is near. The end is near has been their tote for
right?
ever since Krakoa.
Yeah.
They created the utopia and they took away all conflict, and
The end
Made it
is
boring.
nigh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so that's
Time to make new things.
check this shit out.
Sweet.
No, was
Is that it?
we started on a sour note and end on a sour note.
Do 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 do. Brink.
Yeah.
Anyway, The Last Ronin, like we were saying,
Epic.
it took forever to come out, but if you got all of it to read, you should read it all
Worth-
in a row.
Worth the wait. I don't mind when people delay things if they're gonna make it good. Like
Dude.
if it would have sucked and I waited forever, I'd have been all kinds of pissed. But it was so worth the wait.
And if it comes out on trade paperback or even hardback, it would be worth it.
Well worth it. 100%.
Because it's
agree
that
with
good
you.
of a story.
Oh yeah, I'd buy like a hardback, like full graphic novel of it for sure.
Oh yeah. And it's nice to read too. So I got them all as they came out, and then after the 5th one came out and I had it, I read them all. Before I read the 5th one, I just read them all one right after the other.
that's
And
what
I
I
think
did too.
that's the peak experience. That's the right way to do it.
It's definitely
Same, that's what just happened with Nice House on the Lake.
I haven't read it.
all right.
It's-
So like,
But anyways,
we're
so before
if you don't know what we're talking about, the Last Ronin Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story.
we get
uh,
into spoilers, what are your guys' first opinion of it after reading the rest of it? Because Mike, you just finished book 5.
I've just finished the last book.
So spoiler free, what is your first?
I think the ending's incredible. Like perfect. It's like you couldn't ask for a different ending and for it to be better than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think it
It
ties it
ended-
up like in a
Yeah.
with a nice little bow. Maybe not a nice bow. It's kind of a sad one, but
It's a
justified.
acceptable. Yeah.
yeah, no,
Realistic.
yeah, it's a
Realistic
it's like
is
the
a good
only
word
thing
for
that
that.
could have really happened
100%.
in that situation.
So it's a comic not for kids. This is
Yeah.
not that it's
This is what Turtles was meant to be.
Well, and but still, you get the cartoon turtles, and that was like them as teenage. Like he's completely different as an adult.
It was a heartbreak for me to find out who the last Ronin was.
I
That messed me up.
dude, but
Yeah.
when,
Comic
okay, when it
edition
was
1.
before it came out and everybody was all hyped for it. And sorry, my phone keeps ringing, but I put it on silent and it's still doing that.
I'm unprofessional.
Anyway, before it came out, like, and everybody was like trying to guess. You remember?
Oh yeah, it's pretty
Did we
even
start
guesses.
this
I feel.
we didn't start this show before that,
no.
but I remember calling it. And are we gonna say who it is yet?
So first
Oh,
impressions for Raedyn.
We're not doing.
Yeah, just one moment.
Okay.
So what was your
Other than
spoiler free review?
it is heartbreaking to watch. So I grew up a Turtles kid. Like all the cartoon. I watched as many cartoons as I could get my hands on, as many movies as I could get my hands on. So like ones that came out, like I grew up on the ones that came out in like 2002 and 2003. Those ones were amazing. But I also watched like the originals. I also tried to find as many Dark Horse comics from them as I could, and like everything. I went as deep as I could go in Turtles, and it was heartbreaking for me to watch all the events that lead up to what is a beautiful ending unfold. I thought it was like really well done. I thought their present world was really nice, like how it ended, but I thought the past world was just devastating.
Yeah.
And like it was so strange how much it took out of me, but it took so much out of me each book.
So what I want to say before we get into spoilers is it was just a great ride.
100%.
And it was action packed. It had drama, human elements, even though they're mutants, you know, the humanistic qualities.
Tons
plus
of throwbacks.
how it transitioned from scene to scene. There's multiple points of view that were always shifting.
Yeah.
That gave a different point of view and also different timelines as far as flashback, flash forward, even like flash forwards inside of a flash forward, but it still was easy to follow and push the story forward.
I appreciated that it was like less funny than most turtle things, and the humor in it was much darker. But like those little pieces that are in there, I enjoyed that it felt like grown up.
Well, it feels like you just said, it feels grown up, but also it's still connected to like your childhood.
Oh yeah.
Cartoon turtles, to where like, yeah, you could totally picture them being all goofy like that in the cartoon as teenagers, but now he's grown and it's way more serious and
100%. Yeah, it's so
dire stakes and kind of brutal at points.
it feels more real.
So let's
Yeah.
just get into the spoilers here. And the last Ronin is
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I kind of, before this came out, I called it, or I at least was hoping it was him.
Okay, be real. Was it a shot in the dark, or was it did you have an estimated guess?
I felt like it was a good bet.
Yeah, mine was a
just-
shot in the dark, but I
Just because, like, he isn't the obvious choice. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it made him the obvious choice to me
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, he's all serious and shit, and you could totally think that was either Raphael or Leonardo.
I was pretty sure
But-
that it was going to be Raph.
I
would've thought.
I was definitely sure it was Michelangelo only because it wasn't the obvious. He was the least obvious choice.
My next choice was going to be Donnie, but for that same reason.
Yeah.
Like, it just
Oh yeah, he would
nobody would have expected Donatello.
He would have been number 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Actually, I didn't. You're right. I didn't expect Donatello either. I never even
Yeah.
considered him really.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a really good choice too.
But that first book, and you don't find out till the end, and I felt like such a goofball when I found out because all his text boxes are in orange, which is they've been doing since they've been in color.
Yeah.
Like all his text boxes were his color, and it still took me till the end of the comic
Oh shit!
when they revealed
The
it.
first book.
Yeah, when they revealed it to be
Are they
Michelangelo.
really? Where is it?
Yeah,
Hand me that fucker.
I didn't notice it, and I had to look hard even after you told me that
yeah.
before.
And I kind of felt like an idiot. Like all his narration
Oh,
to
yeah, they
himself,
are.
they're orange.
I didn't know about it until I got the first book. Sean gave me the first one and said,
Mhm.
"You need to read this."
All right. So
He kind of relapsed me back into comics.
let's
So I kind of knew it was who it was. That somehow spoiled it, but it still didn't matter.
Oh man, watching him talk to his brothers as spirits,
yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely heart, and you still don't know who it is. And they did a great job.
Let's kind of give a rundown of what is going on in this story. Just kind of a quick overview. So, you want to?
So, like as far as like
what
over
our
the whole
overall
series?
what's going on
In the first book,
like, so just like the other turtles are dead, obviously. Like that's
so it's the last hurrah, the swan song of the Teenage Mutant Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles.
right.
How they are all going to end,
it's been
and then rebirth.
Okay,
it's
not-
been decades and decades. So you come in the first book, right? So
Right.
it's been decades and decades since we've seen the Turtles and Honeycutt and Casey and April. And it's been decades and decades after that. You find out everybody's dead. That's your first thought is Mikey's literally the only one, except for Shredder's bloodline, where you find out that his grandson runs this whole utopian/dystopian universe. And
Blade Runner dystopia.
very, very Blade Runner-esque, where it's like the
Like
center
walls
of
you
their
can't-
city. Yeah,
like
it's like
you're imprisoned in the city.
yeah. So we find out Mikey lives on the outskirts of town, which is kind of like a really cool mirror of the sewers. Like literally, the sewers is the grossest place that someone could live, and they lived in the sewers. So it makes sense that in this future that he still lives in the grossest place imaginable. But instead of it being like, man, there's shit water everywhere, it's like literal radiation and all this stuff that just deteriorates every living being. But because they can't really figure out the goop, the mutagen that made the turtles, is why like Mikey can survive all that. Everybody else on the outskirts has died because they're all humans
Yeah, he
and they
can
can't.
just chill in it. And
Yeah, they
no
can't
big-
make it. It has little effect on him, but it does still have effect on him. And then so it's his swan song. You come in on his last hurrah. This is the Ronin trying to topple the Empire as much as he can, finally end the Foot Clan once and for all.
Well, and it's a like duty that was passed down from the turtles for over like 100 year or a couple hundred year or 1,000 year or however long.
Yeah, they were
Like
betrayed.
yeah.
That's
So
later.
how long was that whole like?
That's a great question. I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean it didn't start with the turtles. They were just meant to end it.
It started in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
Like it started
Yeah, a
before
long
s-
time, long.
depending on which storyline you're following, whether it's going to be from a movie, but it's like it starts with Splinter's Master, and well before that,
Right.
Like it was in some versions well before that, but in the most adopted,
It seems like in
Splinter's
this
Master
one,
starts with.
it seems like in this one, it's way older than that though.
Yeah, it seems in this storyline, it seemed like it was
and then
forever.
and then Splinter knew it was the last the end of the line.
We have KC in it, who's a teenager. So
Yeah,
that's
but-
April's.
but we don't know
daughter.
that yet. We don't-
Eventually,
Yeah, we don't learn that
Not-
Casey
not-
is Casey until like a different book.
that's like 3 or 2.
So they're just a couple. They're a generation. There's a whole other generation that.
But
that's
I'm
an
just
adult.
saying as far as establishing timeline.
Yeah,
So she's probably, so we're talking probably 20 years after.
20. Yeah, I would say like 20 to 30. I think Casey's like
Probably only realistically how old the comic is.
Yeah, right.
Like if it aged real time.
Dang.
Well,
So yeah, the first episode first book is Wish for Death is what the first one's called.
Mm-hmm.
and that's like kind of him bum rushing Shredder's grandson's compound.
It's a suicide mission.
Yeah, he's
and
going
he knows
in.
it.
He's going in to die.
Oroku
Or die trying.
Hirota.
Oroku.
Oroku.
Oroku Orota. It's a
And
fun
then
name.
so he gets fucked up. I mean, he goes through and makes a good run at it and kicks a
Dude,
bunch
he
of
gets
ass.
He-
surprisingly far.
He gets really, really far, but then ends up falling out of the building and all the way down to the street and being rescued by April eventually, right?
Yeah, I love though in this one. So he's going through his whole suicide mission, this whole plan, and the whole time he's being berated by his brothers.
Yeah.
Like even his spirits, they don't approve of this plan specifically,
Yeah, that's
which
a really
I
cool.
really liked.
That's a really cool part of those.
And it's important to
series
know
is
when
that-
you're reading it. They don't know that. The audience doesn't know that they're dead yet. They're just voices talking to him and
Until you see
Well,
them,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
you
what
see
I-
the spirits.
That's what I was just gonna say. Is
So-
like, yeah, it's really cool that
Super cool.
you get to hear them talking to him, and it's kind of like you said, it's him speaking in their voices, just in his own mind, and they kind of come full circle with that at the end of the last book too. It's
Yeah.
like you get it really heavy in the first book, and then he ends it.
Yeah.
And in the last book, he's like, even what did he say? He said something about like when you guys were alive, you used to tell me what to do all the time, but it's even worse when you guys are dead.
Yeah. It's like he has
And
something along those
because
lines.
it's his own mind like berating him, and
Mhm.
he's just like,
I didn't take it as his own mind. I always took it as like those were the actual like
no, they're not. It's not their spirits.
well, in Turtles they've had spirits
It
like
was
come out
in-
before. That's not a new theme for them,
I always took it as it was his subconscious talking to him.
which is also like a really cool. And I knew a lot of people were going to take it like that. I don't think my opinion's going to be the popular one on this. That they're actually spirits,
But well, dude, at the end, yours has a point though, because at the very end when he's dead,
hmm
he like wakes up in like
he wakes up as a teenager.
as a teenager, like as one of the teenage.
He's got like a bandage on his head, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Man, you were out for so long," and they're like making fun of him, and he just like balls.
So is it like he was having a dream?
I think
Like that. So, or is that him waking up in heaven and being with his family?
I think it's like the equivalent of
Yeah.
him like waking up in heaven and being like in his heaven and being with his family.
Dude,
That's how I
that
interpret it.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think you could take it one way or the other.
Now,
However you
even
want.
both cases, when you're talking about, I think it could be either or, and they left
really
it
could.
open
It's
for your
really
own
open.
interpretation.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, you could take it how you want. Doesn't matter what it really was, but I personally took it as like him, like using the memories of his brothers to, project his negative thoughts of himself onto himself.
Yeah, like his survivor's guilt, his survivor's remorse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Good way
they
to
would
put it.
be because he had a ton of it.
This is what it's 5 books about survivor's remorse.
Yeah.
That is what this is.
And he always felt like he wasn't good enough, or like he yeah, like he wasn't, he shouldn't have been the one to be doing this. Or
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of crazy to see him as a teenager and how lighthearted and like funny he was, as opposed to what he is in
This war-torn hermit
dude. And he's like such a fucking badass and
living on
nothing
the
like
radiated outskirts of this
yeah,
giant
and he's
robot
nothing
city.
like in the cartoons or any version of Michelangelo
And that's what broke my
you've
heart.
seen. Yeah, it's like that makes you sad. Is it like took away his innocence.
Look how they
Like-
massacred my boy.
Yeah, they.
Real
And then-
Godfather
and then
moment.
you get 5 issues showing you how it happened.
Oh my gosh.
It's like
yeah.
what he was a kid then, and they were having fun playing superhero, and then he went through the real war, and
Yeah, and
it's not only that, but PTSD too.
the story really starts on number 2.
So yeah, one thing we've kind of gone over most of what happened in the first issue. One important thing is he's about to kill himself. He's going to take
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he can't even
And
do
that's
that
where
right. He says
Casey.
because
We learn it then comes in and saves him.
He like bleeds out right before he can, doesn't he?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
passes out before he can stab himself.
Mm-hmm. He's
And
gonna.
I think he even says something about not being even good enough to kill himself properly.
Yeah, he's all.
As he passes
Mad
out, he's
about
like,
that.
"Ah, fuck! I can't even do this right."
And then we start to see some of the maniacalness of the bad guy. We'll just call him Shredder 2.0.
Yeah,
He says, no matter what I need, has his mom in this like cryogenic or like,
Oh yeah, he has Karai all stuffed up like that.
yeah. So he's like keeping her, but the only reason why he's keeping there is to show him how much better and like to prove his mom wrong.
Yeah.
Like I could do this so much
it's
better.
not
than
even
you.
to save her.
It's not
he's
to
just-
save. It's just so he can be like, fuck you, mom. I did it better.
So Karai has like this very what is her name? The mom in Rick and Morty. Like
Beth.
yeah, Beth. Yeah. Yeah, so like she has a very like Beth and Rick relationship with the Shredder because he just is terrible. He abandons her. He never like she's not on his radar at all. She's just like a general in his army as far as Shredder's concerned. But she, as a child and even as an adult, has always just wanted to prove herself. Like she just wants a dad, which is also really heartbreaking. But that abuse, it's cool to see that generationally, where you have Shredder 2.0, who just wants his mom's attention, who just wants a mom.
But it's a weird kind of
Is-
attention.
Yeah,
too.
but his competition is his grandpa. So he's like, if the only way that I can get your attention is by being him, I'm gonna be him but better.
Yeah. And that's how he's the bad guy.
Exactly. So he's got a really cool motivation, and it's nice to see a bad guy who doesn't have this like super sad backstory. It's just like, I'm a dick.
When it
He
seems
is a
very,
fucking straight up asshole.
He's
too.
the worst. Yeah.
He's like, I'm a god.
Yeah.
Like that's how far gone that motherfucker
He is a straight god.
also
complex.
his last words.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally says, "I'm
I'm a god.
or I'm immortal, or I'm a god."
And
Yeah,
then dies in a face full of shit.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
yeah, he dies in the fucking same muck that
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler.
Michelangelo was. Oh
born
yeah,
of.
yeah, he dies in that same
In
shit.
the
that he was-
mutagen.
So
Yeah.
let's go to issue 2. So this is first to fall.
Oh my gosh.
So it starts off from the point of view of April as she flashes back to Thanksgiving, and she's just been proposed to by,
Casey.
or we learn that they're proposed,
They're getting married.
but they haven't told anybody yet.
Yeah.
And then Ralph comes in, and everybody's all fucked up, and we learn about that they've been ambushed.
Ralph?
Splinter's- yeah, Raphael.
Ralph. Raphael.
Yeah, no, that's and so Raph is my guy. Raph has always been like my favorite. And it's funny that like he evolved from originally is like he wasn't always like the rude turtle. He was just the cool dude, and cool in the 80s was rude.
Mhm.
So as his character progresses, he just gets kind of like mean or angry, and that's his thing. But Raph was always my favorite turtle, like growing up, and the fact that he was the first to go and how he goes makes so much sense to me,
Yeah, that
and
shit's
still
hardcore.
ripped me apart.
That shit's
yeah.
hardcore. He went out like a motherfucking gangster.
He went out like Leonidas.
Yeah, he went out like a bad motherfucker, like for real.
He literally charged in a battle, much like Michelangelo,
Just almost like how it started off.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
He knows that this is, but he's in pure rage. So if he was, last time I was on this podcast, we had talked about a little bit how I think of a lot of the world in D&D.
Mhm.
So he would be, he's the barbarian. He's got
Yeah.
he's got that barbarian's rage. I forget what it's called, but he just enraged. So he enrages himself.
Berserker.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
goes berserk, and then he
He is a
rushes in.
berserker, kind of.
Yeah.
Because he went in, fought like how many fucking ninjas off? Like over 100.
Yeah, the whole battalion.
Like he
just by
took
himself.
out a fucking ton of people, and then like didn't he? He threw down with. Isn't he the one that injured Homeboy's mother?
Yeah, they
Yeah, he
That's
he
the one
did.
who-
he dies,
He
right?
did. Yeah, he
Yeah, and
jabs
then,
Karai, and
she-
Karai's like, Shma!
Doesn't he like stab her, and then she like stabs him?
Again, yeah, much like
It's-
Leonidas.
they're
That's how he goes
They're
out.
like sinking in the water, and he thinks he's got her, and like they get each other.
Yeah, that's the part that's really different. Is that in no point in Mikey's story does he think at all that he has the upper hand. Not even in the end. Like when he wins, he's still kind of astonished. Spoiler, sorry, but in Raph's, he's like, I'm gonna make it out. He's still in like that teenage young adult, I am immortal, without ever saying it, which I also really enjoyed about Raph, like as his character. He's
Dude,
just
he was like
that.
full of arrows.
Oh my, yeah.
and
So
fucking-
he gets berated by the whole clan, and because he's not dealing with the whole clan,
and
he's going
like,
straight
I'm still
for the head.
standing, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
This is all you got. And like, yeah, ends up, dude. That fight, yeah, that was a really tough one.
It was a
Watch-
really tough one
I
to
was
watch.
like, he's even then when I read it, I was like, oh, but he's not dead though, right? Like,
oh no.
But the other thing is, while we're getting bits of that story, we're getting bits of the present dystopia.
yeah,
Correct.
Like April has cybernetic or robot arms and legs and
yeah,
shit.
because she got fucked up in
Yeah, and
something later.
so I mean, they've all just been torn to shit, and still holding on with duct tape and
Yeah.
And she's
Bailing
still
wire.
living, and she's living in the turtles old there.
yep.
She lives in the Ulster. It's the only safe place for her.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty cool.
And then we still get bits and pieces of Mike kind of dealing with his brothers,
Mhm.
kind of fighting, and then from one page they're there, then they're just gone. So this, is he crazy? Is he not crazy? Are they spirit?
Yeah.
It's like just even like his own psychosis just fucking with him, just
Yeah.
like his brothers did.
Yeah, I think it's PTSD, like you said,
mhm.
survivor's guilt. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's just his coping mechanism, and like maybe not like he's crazy, but that he just thinks about his brothers a lot.
Uh-huh. I love how at peace he is with that the whole time. So in no way, shape, or form is Michelangelo at peace with his brother's death, but he is at peace with just talking to them like it's normal.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's-
how,
and
that's
he
how he
under-
deals with it.
The fact that they're there is proof that he hasn't coped with them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're he can't get rid of him. He needs to keep, maybe like part of him needs that
Mhm.
that grit to fight against to keep him going.
Well, but that's like interesting. That's like in this moment that's true, but like at the end before he goes for the second time and does that blitz, he lets it go before he goes, and that's when he wins.
And it's only because he knows that it's only because he knows that he's going to be with him again.
Well, he knew that the first time though. Technically, he went in there to die,
Yeah.
but he went in with different.
Different intentions.
Yeah, well, yeah, he went in there.
He
to
didn't
do
go
the-
in there to topple the government. He went in there to die.
Yeah,
Whereas this time, or the next time, he goes in there with a real plan, with a real strategy,
right.
and he knows that he knows
And a
first off,
team.
and a real team. He knows he's not going to make it out, but he knows that it's going to work.
Yeah.
Whereas even in the other one, they're making fun of him because they're just making like, oh, this is going to be a shit show.
Right.
Like you're not going to make it out of this alive,
and
and you're
that's-
not going to change anything.
Yeah, and that's just his own, him telling himself that. That's the way I took it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was that, that's him knowing that his plan is shit.
What was your reaction when you found out that Casey was Casey? Like Casey, like April's daughter.
It was kind of a little, I mean,
Not a
It
huge
fit.
deal.
I mean, it was almost a little too formulaic a little bit, but it didn't stop me at all.
I just disliked that her name was Casey, but it did
Yeah.
catch me off guard. Like, oh, that was the chick from the first one. Like, holy nuts!
Well, yeah, because Michelangelo steals her bike,
Steals her
and,
motorcycle
like trashes it.
and dips.
Yeah, and then it goes away, and then she ends up like saving his ass too.
Hmm. And she's not mad about it because she recognized the turtle from her mom's stories. She was like, holy shit, they're real.
I think it's
Never thought I'd
interesting
meet
to
one.
note
Yeah.
that, like, as teenagers, they were, like, kind of smaller. like not much bigger than a person.
Oh, and then they grew.
And then like so yeah, and
There's some lines in there about it too.
and that like since he's an adult, he's much bigger, much stronger, much faster.
that's how he's able to survive the fall.
You know what,
Yeah.
that was like pretty cool for me because like you said, you grew up on like the newer, are they Michael Bay movies, the Ninja Turtle ones?
I didn't grow up on
I
those
don't
movies,
know.
but I definitely did watch
But
them.
you know how they were like really big in those.
Yeah, they were just
And,
huge.
like I kind of dug that. You kind of got like the old school Ninja Turtles, and then you had some of that too. So he's
Yeah.
like much the same as like those bigger turtles in the new movies.
Yeah.
Which I thought those movies were pretty cool. Did you guys like them?
I thought they were decent. I thought the second one was just like all fan service and computer noises, but I enjoyed that one I think more than I did the first, although I didn't dislike the first.
I liked them both.
I haven't even seen them.
They're
Why?
okay.
Really?
No.
You should
It's
watch
like
them.
Yeah, there's ones like, yeah, I should watch that, and then, oh look, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, dude. You should watch them.
Wiener, 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 wiener.
South Park's best joke about Game of Thrones. Yeah. What else? Let's see. What else are we missing? So there's
So that was about all as far as issue 2. We also learned that's where Mike is introduced to KC.
and then in the next book, that's when that gets the
So yeah, issue 3 is fight or flight.
yes.
So we get a flashback to Oroku's ceremony where he becomes the leader of the Foot. So this is where we start learning about some shady shit that he's doing.
It's the betrayal.
Yes, it is. He's the Judas. I don't even know if Judas is even. He's never even on the right side of the table.
Well, they had a treaty.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just Satan.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
he's
Yeah,
the
he's
Lucifer.
He was just
He's
already
just a fucking dick.
gone.
Yeah, because he
Like he had a
they-
plan from the
they
start.
initiates a peace treaty with the Foot, the Turtles and the Foot, and then when they meet, he's like, nope,
Yep.
it was an ambush.
And this book is the first twofer.
Yeah, what
this
a
is the
fucking
first.
shitty thing to do.
This is the first double kill that we get,
Yeah.
You know, 'cause
which-
we lose Splinter
and Donatello.
and
Donatello.
Donatello. Yeah,
Both because they're the ones who went to Japan, which I thought it was really cool that Splinter had brought Donnie with him as opposed to Leonardo, because Leonardo has to still keep watch over the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's got to
Yeah.
keep watch over Mikey, Casey, and April, and Honeycutt. Honeycutt's still a part of this. So he's just got to keep track of them. And so I like that he leaves his leader there, but the next in command, it's neat to see that it's Donnie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool that he brought.
And it
the
totally
Brainiac.
should be. I mean, he's the only real level-headed one of the bunch.
he's the
Other
turtle I'm most
than
related
like
to.
Leonardo.
Yeah,
Him and Leonardo were the two.
he was the most sensible, but not always the most
Yeah, like not maybe the most like direct or
not always the most
He's
I
not a
should say
general.
correct. Because Donnie was like, it'd be so much easier if we just did this, and Leo would always have to be like, we can't because A, that's not allowed by the rules, or B, that's gonna take way more than you think it's gonna. So as they grow up, it's cool to see Donnie grow out of that and finally find his own as not a leader, but in more of that mindset.
Second in command.
Yeah. Super heartbreaking that they just they're there to celebrate. Like even the weapons that they bring were ceremonial. They didn't prep for
Yeah,
war.
they fully expected it to be
They expected this to be cool.
like exactly what they were told.
Yeah.
And it like yeah, that part is fucked up.
And then they get jumped and they die, and that's when. But at that same time, that's when the war breaks out
Doesn't Splinter survive for a little while after
in New
that?
York. I think Splinter was the first to go, and then Donnie went after him, if I
Okay.
remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I thought they both kind of died in battle,
Like
back
around
to
the same
back.
time, yeah.
or it was like he turned. Yeah, it kind of showed. It never showed their death on screen or on.
It didn't show Raph's either.
No, none of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you never
kinda
actually
you just kind of saw him like floating,
fading
their hands-
away.
their hands floating apart or whatever.
You get
It's
the.
like if I'm talking and then I just sort of just kind of go.
That-
It was it's
yeah, it just,
exactly
yeah,
like
fades
that.
away.
And then the red,
And then
his
that's
mask.
trial of red.
yeah, he sinks and she floats up to the top in the because they're
And
in
then
the
goes
water.
into the cryogenic chamber.
Yeah, because
It wasn't really cryogenic, but
they were
No.
fighting in the water, in the river, right?
Yeah, and in this one they're fighting in the snow in
'Cause
Japan.
he fucking hugged her and like jumped into the water to drown her ass. And she ended up fucking stabbing him, right?
Yeah,
Is that how it went down?
I think so. I don't really.
Like
It's
that.
I
been a while. I
remember. I
should've reread
remember
before I
Raph
came.
was like super fucked up, and he ended up hugging her and falling into the water. And I think that was his plan, is to just drown her, and he's not gonna drown.
I think it's a neat theme that you can see around for the Splinter and Donatello battle. Like the battle in the snow is not always good for the hero. I can't remember
Yeah.
what I was thinking about when I saw that, or like Lord of the Rings, you know, they're out in the snow and they can't even manage that, so that's what brings them to the mines of Moria. But snow's not good for heroes, and these guys are out in Japan, which it's cool because Splinter's going through all these emotions because he's just living full nostalgia. Like, this is where I grew up. This is where everything happened. This is how it happened. I remember these streets. There were shops here. My house used to be here. Like that whole era is what Splinter is living in. And in the midst of that, in the midst of him finally being able to show his sons, he never got this opportunity. In the midst of him finally being able to share with his children what he grew up with, that's when Splinter attacks him. Like, not only off guard because he was lied to and they believed it was
But
a
he's
ceremony, but
distracted.
like, yeah, totally distracted in every sense.
Completely off guard and not expecting anything at all.
Yeah.
And then in the present tense, or the
Mhm.
present world, he's declared Shredder 2.0 has declared martial law
Yeah.
and is on a rampage to try and find Michelangelo. Is sending everybody after and trying to get him.
Yeah, because he believed that he was dead too, right?
No, he just knew that he thought they were all dead, but then and then he's
Yeah.
like, oh, one
And
came back, and now he's like, I gotta
Because he saw
find
the
this
footage
guy
from
and
the
kill him.
foot robot. They're not even real people anymore.
Because him
nor
and
are they
Leonardo,
cyborgs.
because him and Leonardo and April all got blown up in an explosion, right? And that's how April lost.
I think that's
her
in
arm.
more in 4.
Oh, was
so-
it?
That's
Yeah.
the next book.
Was
Yeah.
it really?
Yeah, one
Yeah.
book at a time, homie.
Well, fuck, I don't remember this shit in order, dude.
But
I
no,
just
yeah.
remember-
We've just dissected it, but you're
I
right.
think
Yeah,
we
that
do-
does get
I
a.
don't think we need to give the entire play-by-play, but
I mean, it's
I
we're,
mean-
this isn't everything. These are just the key points.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the cool thing about this story, just as we were seeing the past and the present, there's like two different lines of, two different stories going on at the same time that are
Mhm.
interwoven and are a yin and a yang, and that just make this great flow for this whole story.
Yeah.
And from start to finish, that's what made it very satisfying and a great comic.
And they interchange really well together. Like there's no point for me, at least, where I was confused with, is this a flashback or are we back to the present right now? Like,
And they changed art styles too.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are different
yeah,
tones
into
or
the flashback.
inks.
Yeah.
Like when it was the young turtles, and even kind of later on in the heaven scene, it's much lighter, a lot more oranges and
Everything's, like,
yellows.
super-
Or when he
colorful.
was talking about his journey up into the mountains and
Yeah,
shit.
when he just
and
decides
it
to
looks
walk,
like very old school. It had that.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like the old Ninja Turtles comic.
and it was all like just
in those
sketch
scenes.
style.
And that makes it really easy to break apart into like distinguish like different, like, oh, okay, this is a memory because it looks completely different than the rest of it.
And
That's-
bringing back that old art style, like you were saying,
Yeah.
is super. Like, that's a really cool thing to do for the fans,
Yes.
because that's what brings you in that memory as well. Like, oh man, that's nostalgia for me. Like this.
So yeah, in those like super flashback scenes,
Yeah.
it looks like the old comics, and that's like fan service right there, you know?
Yeah, but
But
used
that's, like-
intelligently.
I mean, yeah, so smart. Like to take it back to that
Yeah.
for the flashback, like
Because in the movie, the second movie, they bring out Bebop and Rocksteady, and everyone's just happy. That's the fan service, because it's like, oh, I love these guys. This is Bebop and Rocksteady.
yeah.
But in this one, it's like, I'm going to take you through a memory, and I'm going to take you through a memory through your memories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't really get to read the comics that much.
Mm-hmm.
When I grew up, it was the cartoon in the, you
Yeah.
know, the 80s cartoon. That was,
And then
the movies. So that was mostly my
and the
Ninja
action
Tur-
figures.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Man, dude, let me
Yeah.
tell you, I had the Turtle Van.
I had the van.
I had Shredder the Astro.
Do you have the blimp?
No.
Did you have the lair? I had the lair. Did you guys have a sewer
no,
lair?
I didn't have the layer, but I
See, the
had.
toys were a little
What
after
was-
my time.
What was Shredder's with the eyeball on the top.
Oh, that was what was that thing with the eyeball on the top?
Technodrome.
Oh yeah, one of Baxter's things.
No, that was
The Terror
no,
Dome was G.I. Joe.
No, that was
no, like
it was
Baxter.
Shredder's, the one with.
Yeah, it was Shredder's, but Baxter made it like story wise
Oh, okay.
for Shredder.
Either way, I had that thing. It was fucking pretty big. I played with that thing all the time with
Oh,
all my
man.
Ninja Turtles. I had the van. I had a fucking. I wish I had the blimp. I always wanted the blimp.
The Turtles were the last action figure I collected as a kid.
I
So
always
after that, that's kind of where I kind of phased out of the action figures. The last ones I remember were like, I don't know if it was Turtles in Time or whatever, but they were like all dressed up as like samurais.
Yeah, that's Turtles in
Oh, yeah,
Time. That's
yeah,
the
it's
third live
movie.
action movie.
Yeah, the movie's awesome.
Which is way better than the second. I'm
No, it's not.
gonna throw that out
Stop
there.
it.
Secret of the Ooze was garbage compared to
Stop.
the other two.
Stop.
I'm not a fan of Secret of the Ooze.
You sound
Oh.
crazy right now.
Look at that's 2 of 3.
Huh?
I'm not a fan of the Secret of the Ooze.
Why? What's wrong with it?
Oh well,
just-
Is it just
cheesy.
because Vanilla Ice is in it?
no.
That's the only redeeming part. No,
It's also
The
like the
ninja-
weakest story wise,
Not the
and it
only.
has the most continuity errors.
it just felt like money grubbing.
Yeah, it was
Cash grab.
it was a
That's
cash
what I-
grab film.
The third one is pretty cool though.
The third one's pretty rad. I won't
I
look.
like
I
it.
still enjoy Secret of the Ooze, but I just recognize that it's pretty.
The
trash.
first one's the best one, obviously.
Oh, the first one's always most times the
that
first one
movie's
is
so
best.
great, and I actually
not counting Empire.
underappreciated it as a kid.
Terminator.
As a kid, I
Oh,
underappreciated the first movie, just because it was like a little over my head. I think
Yeah,
as far as like how serious it was, and I was like,
I concur with
This
that
isn't-
statement.
"This isn't like
completely.
the cartoon." What? Like, you know what I mean?
You're
So
like,
Yeah.
where's the anchovies on the pizza? That's
Yeah,
what
so
I'm waiting for.
that's why maybe I liked the second one so much. Was because it was much more like the cartoon, a little more lighthearted.
I think I just caught the second one when I was too old. So we owned. My parents are also huge nerds, so we owned the
Yeah.
first and the third movie because they thought the second one was terrible. And then I watched it at my cousin's house when I was a little older and could like understand. I must have been like 11 or 12. And then I finally watched Secret of the Ooze, and I was like, oh, no.
It's not that fucking
It's-
bad.
it's
You guys are
not.
being ridiculous.
Well, it kind of is.
It's
When you can see their eyeballs through the mask. And the
It's
mask
so
opens up.
funny. So funny.
it's not that bad.
I don't think it was that bad,
I
but
don't
it
think-
wasn't that good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Not like Last Ronin. That was this.
Literally heartbreaking.
So
yeah, that's if that was a movie.
This should.
If they made a movie out of the Last Ronin, like what a fucking great movie that would be. If
It would have to be animated.
I would have to agree. I'd want to see it animated.
Why?
done.
It
I don't
could
know.
be.
Just I don't know. I think just the art and transition styles, like we've talked about. I guess it could be done.
Animated would be maybe easier for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and you could probably do a lot more.
You can do so much more, and you don't have other artists. It takes other artists out of the equation, which is like sad to say, but also kind of what you need if you want the story that is already
What
written.
studio would you want to do it?
Oh,
I don't know the studios enough.
Dang, that's a really good question. If I were to have a studio do this, shoot, I would want the studio that had made Batman versus the Monsters.
The monsters.
Is it the Monsters? What is that one? The
Well, there is the Batman Ninja Turtles movie, and that one's animated really great.
yeah, the animation style is great, but I have that comic, and side to side, they are not the same.
Well, it's mostly the case with any DC animated movie, though.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, right? Sometimes, I mean, some moves are for the better, but I'm like a huge Turtles fan, so like
So
lots
Like-
of stuff is real sacred to me.
yeah, that movie's really cool though. The Batman.
It is really cool. They did like a
So-
really bitchin' job with
somebody
it.
like that, but I would actually want like something highlight like super detailed for this. I wouldn't want it to
I
be
agree. I
so
would wait
something
3
like-
years for a cartoon.
something like a DC animated. I wouldn't want that. I would want something that is hyper realistic, but like not hyper realistic, but you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, like the step below CG where it's still drawn, but it's
Yeah,
not.
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I hate CG
I'm not-
anime.
Yeah.
But it may be like an anime
Like the
studio.
new Berserk. The new Berserk's terrible.
I hate it.
But if there was an anime studio that did this, I would want
Like
who
the
is
one
it?
that
I had
does-
that in mind.
Like the one that does One Punch Man.
I was thinking, season 1 of One Punch.
That would be good.
That'd be really good. Or shoot, even Demon Slayers would be really good too. They've only increased.
Like an anime studio to do this movie then.
Yeah, that'd be rad.
Like for sure.
That'd be super rad.
I think so. Like what's the studio that did Naruto?
Shonen
Like dude,
Jump.
like so give it to Shonen Jump.
It'd be pretty neat.
That would be pretty neat.
That'd be so sick. Oh man. So book what else happens in book 4 that's like really important? I know that like Casey's like really on Mikey.
So we
in
actually
present time.
KC died in 3.
Casey no, I mean KC. The daughter. Female. Kasei
Cassette.
for some separation.
We missed
don't
some
church
stuff
it up,
in
dude.
3 a little bit, but
Oh, that's what I meant to say. Book 3. I remember like Casey's really bugging Mikey to teach her.
yeah, they start training, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's when we start to get the Japan flashbacks.
Which is cool how that ties in because like even though Mikey never got a taste of Japan, that's where all his stuff lies.
So there's one scene that was really powerful. Casey, the girl, comes up out of the sewer and is on the same street where Casey, her dad, and Ralph died.
Yeah.
So on Bleecher Street in Sullivan, she comes at the same moment and is like coming out in martial law and is like, oh shit. This is like the same spot where everything happened. But for her, this is almost a transition point where she's not becoming the victim, but she starts becoming more of, the badass,
Yeah, like a
The
step
ninja.
above like the weird street thug thing that she was in. For a second, when you first see her in the comics, because of her color scheme, I thought she was going to be part of the Purple Dragons. And I was like, man, did those guys survive too? I was happy to see that they didn't. Casey's whole storyline revolves around the Purple Dragons, but I was cool. It was much
So when do
cooler.
you start seeing that she has powers?
don't really. And I mean, I think is when
A little bit when
during
she
she
starts
started training,
when
yeah.
she starts training with Mikey
Yeah, I
because
think
he's
that's
like,
when
damn, she's way strong.
And when does that happen? That's in like the second or third book.
It's
right?
yeah, third or fourth.
It's
It's
like
gotta
when
be.
they start training and he starts. But you don't really see it until the last book when she punches through the fucking wall or whatever.
That's when you really get to see it
Yeah.
because he criticizes her. He's like, man, you have a lot of strength, but you have zero technique. And I love I'm sure even as a boxer you could appreciate that, but like as a fighter, that's like probably one of my favorite things that you can see is because when you get really good at a martial art, whatever it is, and some dude comes over and tries to outpower you, if you have your technique down, you're still gonna take the fight.
Right.
So that's like, I love that he criticized her for that. I also love, and I wish I had said it sooner, but I love that you get to see Mikey using all the weapons, because all the turtles, it's not just him. All the turtles were trained in everything. The ones that were bestowed upon them from Splinter, it wasn't like, oh, you're the best at this one. I don't know if you guys have seen like the theory going around about the meaning of the weapons, and
Why he gave each one to which?
why he gave each one to
I
which.
think I did read that. Yeah.
But like quick recap, like Donnie's all about tech and trying to be part of the future. So Splinter gives him the simplest weapon. Like, hey, you get a wooden stick, and you have to be creative within that. I was about to say Mikey. Raphael's all about brute force, and
it's a defensive weapon.
he gets a defensive pinpoint weapon. Like if you use this, you have to be extremely accurate because sides don't have sides.
Yeah. You would
It's just
think.
round
You would
and
think
pointy.
he would want the.
The katanas.
Yeah.
And then Mikey, because he's crazy and everywhere, needs the most precise, thoughtful weapon. So what would have even fit better for Donnie is what Mikey gets because it's what he needs to work on the most. And then for Leonardo, because he plays so defensively and he takes the role in leadership, has the only like real lethal weapon out of all of them. Like this is used to remove limbs and heads, but Donatello is a defense player. Like he's not out here trying to murder folks. He was the one trying to control the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that like
That's
it's
pretty good.
all of them were trained in all these weapons and more because Splinter knew all of these. Like that was the world that he grew up in. So he trained his kids just as he was, and then gave them all these weapons. But it's cool to see them reach out of that.
It's cool to see him carrying all the weapons and
So badass.
And Leonardo's broken katana.
That was sick.
It's not just one of the katanas, but it's a broken one.
It's the broken one. It's the
that's-
last one that he had, and it's like the bullet in Jack's gun throughout Pirates of the Caribbean. Like that first one, when he even when he aims the gun at some other person, he's like, "This bullet's not meant for you." Like that sword had a purpose.
Right. And he doesn't really use it until the end, does he?
Mm-hmm. It's the real closure.
and
that's
then-
vindication in his eyes for his brothers.
Yeah, and that was cool. Are we into the fifth one? So
No, we're in the fourth.
Let's get through
There's
that,
there's been
let's get to the end.
we're wrapping up 3.
We got to get through 4 real quick, which is
So I got a little Kylo Ren kind of feel off of Shredder 2.0.
oh yeah,
He kind of had that kind of weird mommy daddy
Oh, yeah. I get that.
issue.
the Ben Swallow
Not
vibes.
not in a bad way, but that same kind of
Yeah, I get what you're
bad
saying.
juju,
yeah.
and
Can I?
then we also go ahead, grab one. We also start to see the plan to kind of take out Baxter's hideout, and then soon we get
Baxter, yeah.
Honeycomb.
I
back.
Yeah, I
Honeycutt?
love Honeycutt. I love that they have Baxter, and I like that they use the Baxter from my childhood, because it's the one that I'm most connected to. So you probably remember Baxter as a giant fly.
Yeah,
Yeah, but in mine, he's the first cyborg. He's like this crazy. He had his own explosion, and then he had to put himself back together, and then works for Shredder and all that. So like the plan that Baxter is also still such an opponent in this time was really cool to see. Yeah, so the plan to take down Baxter is probably one of the most fun things for me.
because it has all the Wi-Fi and all the technology for the Sidio, so they take that out, and they can run at the tower.
In the words of Gandalf, cut the head off the snake.
Yep. So, end of book 3, Mike reveals, "I've got a plan," and then we start to see the plan in book 4.
Like a real plan.
Yeah,
this
real
time,
plan.
which is neat to think that he was holding on to a real plan and still chose suicide. He was like,
Well, he didn't have a team. That was he had a plan, but nobody to do it with.
yeah, he thought he was the only
Nothing
one.
to do it for.
Right.
Like he didn't have a
That's a
reason to
good way
fight
to put
for.
that.
He
That's a good
Yeah.
point,
because now
too.
he's like, there's some people out here that I still care about that matter.
Yeah, he needed a reason to live and to fight.
I think that's
And
what
he-
it was.
That was his way to take himself out of his misery in the beginning.
Yeah,
It was a legit suicide attempt.
100%. I mean, like he
And
tried to
then-
commit seppuku right there at the end. So.
Yeah, and even tried to kill him. He tried to kill himself twice in the first book and failed twice.
Mm-hmm.
But who saved him?
Yeah, and then he
becomes-
found his purpose after that, which is pretty poetic and beautiful.
Yeah.
You really
There's
think
so
about
many
it.
things like that in this book
Yeah.
that just kind of pop out.
And the juxtaposition between the world that he lived in and how he remembers the world starting to deteriorate and the world that exists now. So the Shredder 2.0 dystopia versus him losing all his brothers.
I love the Shredder 2.0
I
stuff.
mean,
That's so
I-
because
funny.
I can't pronounce
He
his
really
name.
is, though, you know?
Yeah, he's like
It kind of bummed me out that it wasn't Shredder. I was hoping it would be.
yeah.
You probably weren't surprised by that. You seem to be way more versed in the comics.
I wasn't super surprised by that. But I wasn't disappointed. I was at first. I also wanted it to be Shredder just because of like, oh yeah, classic fight. Here we go.
Right, that'd be sick,
But-
but maybe that doesn't fit into the storyline. of the
I felt
comic.
like if they were to do Shredder, it might have felt like how they brought the Empire, the Emperor Palpatine back in Episode 9.
Yeah.
You know, when you're just like, come on, for real? Like I finally thought we were
Well,
over
see, I didn't
this.
even know he was like gone or this was. I thought this was like a standalone story that had nothing to do with any.
Technically, yeah, this is.
But it still is. It's tied to like the old comics, though.
Yeah,
right?
it's still tied. It still follows other comic series from the Turtles, which is really cool. I like
so
that it does
it
that.
tie in more? Like, so if it Like, are you saying it ties into multiple series?
Yeah, so it's Turtles is kind of a mess, not gonna lie.
Well, I figured.
Yeah, they have like a lot of one-offs and stuff like that. Like there's this ongoing series that's been happening since like oh man, late or early 2010s. And then they have like the series that came out before that. You have your side your one-offs like or not one-offs, but like your side stories like the Urban Legend comics. So those are like all different side stories and kind of branches of like, oh, this is the Turtles. This is something cool that we
Like
can
what
do with
ifs?
them. Yeah, kind of like what ifs. But another really cool thing is that Kevin Eastman had a part in all of them. That Eastman was like, all right, cool. These are my characters. This is how we're going to handle them. And in one of the series, the ones that came out in the early 2010s, Splinter had beheaded Shredder. They had, so in Avatar,
That's
The Last
hardcore.
Airbender, that we talked about Agni Kai. I don't know if you remember that. I think we talked about it on the podcast, but they have like, you know, that this is the uninterrupted fight for the death. And in Firebender world, they call it Agni Kai. So basically, they had their own Agni Kai, and Splinter came out on top, where it's like my life or yours.
So it's like a death match and
Yeah.
Splinter wins.
Exactly, and that was a huge spiral for all the Turtles. They each handled that one very differently. Mike probably the worst, but because he's the which also breaks my heart in this because Mikey in that is the youngest and the most innocent. So when he watches
And is
Shredder, he watches his dad behead another human being, and he just can't fathom that idea that like, man, you taught us to protect people, you taught us to always look out for each other, you taught us to defend, and you murdered somebody. And he runs away from home, and it takes like 3 issues for him to come back, and so it's like a huge, and then that compared to this where he's like, I don't.
That sounds like a badass storyline too.
Yeah.
It was pretty sick. But then from this where he's like, I'm gonna topple your fucking empire, and I don't care who goes down.
That almost sounds cooler than this one.
It becomes a mess a little later. After yeah, remember talking about it's the same series that introduces Punk Frogs. Teenage
So-
Mutant Punk Frogs.
Sometimes I like these series that have it's only a 5-issue run because
I
they're
like that
able to focus on the story and have a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
You know, I think without that
And then
resolve,
and then they add to it later. It's whatever, but you still have
Mhm.
that.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah. Book 4 was really cool because in the beginning, I remember when I was reading this feeling like in the beginning of the book, I still felt like we were in the middle and the meat of the story. And then towards those last couple pages where like,
this is the Blood and Snow. So
Blood.
this is the one where book 4 is where Splinter and Donatello die.
yeah. Oh yeah. Blood and Snow. Sorry. Yeah. But
Which that one might have like one of the prettier covers too. Like it doesn't have much on it as like opposed to the other ones,
yeah,
But,
there's a
like,
lot less
it
going
does-
on.
but it's definitely like a gorgeous. Like look at that.
And also
So the
heartbreaking.
journal in the snow with Donatello's staff.
The single set of footprints.
Yeah. Like that's a
Gone.
beautiful image.
It's really good.
Like,
Beautifully
these
and
are
haunting.
these are all
Yeah.
really cool covers. I think I like Raphael's a lot too.
I should
man.
I
That
have
one's-
I have an Eastman cover of the first comic. I should have brought it down.
the first book.
Of the first book, yeah.
This one.
Mhm.
I have the A cover for that one. It's actually I think worth.
Is that the one that's all orange except for Ronin in the middle
I
of it?
can't remember.
The first one's right in front of.
No, I mean the A cover, the other one.
I think mine's got like it's a little different than this cover though.
Yeah, mine is super different. Mine was drawn by Eastman.
It's the same picture, but the colors are different. I think.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the A cover of. So it's like the original cover.
Mm-hmm. Isn't like black and white. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
Issue 4 is where Casey, we get a lot of training with him, and Mike and Casey really
Oh
get
yeah.
serious into training. And he's like preparing her for battle, and it's like, all right, it's for real now.
Yeah, I love that.
Real.
For
It's
real,
like,
real. Yeah.
in the present time, it's all, hey, this is go, this is serious, this is what we're doing, and even in that sense, feels more lighthearted, like the Turtles did, because it's finally a glimmer of hope, like a real glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
Not the people I once knew are alive, but like, dude, we have a real chance.
Right.
And so I like that it's that in that storyline, it's finally a glimmer of hope versus the past where it's all hope is lost. That's when all of that starts to break loose.
You know what I just thought of?
Hmm.
Does Michelangelo give you Batman vibes?
As the Ronin,
Yeah.
low key.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Like he's
A
all.
broke ass Batman, but
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's broke as fuck.
If Batman was poor.
well, that's
Well, there's been
There's
storylines where he
the
is
White Knight
pretty,
right now is
pretty recent. Yeah, he's homeless, I think, and then running around doing his broke Batman thing.
Love that.
broke ass
It
Batman.
is actually really cool. I read the first few issues of that, and it wasn't bad at all. Actually,
White. If it's the White Knight, is that one's really solid.
it might be. I can't remember. I'd have to go digging through my
Th-
shit.
that isn't one worth doing a whole episode on. Those ones. I just read the graphic novel and Curse of the White Knight.
Yeah,
It's
Love to read them.
pretty solid.
good.
That sounds like it'll be good.
We should do some more like comic book runs for sure. Anyway,
So
where are we at?
let's other key things that happened in issue 4. I mean, one thing about each one of these books, there are epic battles in every single one.
So
As far as like reading a comic book and getting good enjoyment out of each book, there's action and everything.
None of them feels like filler.
or
There's-
like yeah,
exactly. Every page, every panel needed to be there, and it was poetic
yeah,
that way.
I agree. And it
It
wasn't
is
yeah,
a
none of
really
them are
tight
forced.
story like that.
Mhm.
Really well composed for each book. Like you said, there's the same amount of everything in each book.
Yeah. And it's not like most animes, you have to wait a whole season until you finally get the cool fight scene. You're like, oh man, just watch until this person fights this guy and is
Right.
really cool. But it's nice also because it's the start of the war and the end of a war. And there's constant fighting the whole time. Like there's
And
no
two
time for rest.
timelines too.
Yeah.
Because you get the, where Splinter and Leo are dying, and then you get the rebellion at Baxter's palace. Here's the plan. What's going to happen?
With the dusty honeycut head.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your favorite battle in the entire series then?
Oh.
What's your favorite fight?
So, oh man, that's a really good question. Why was I not prepared for that one?
I just thought of it. I didn't even think I would ask it.
I'd almost have to go with the end, the last scene, just because
So good. That last fight's good.
It's so good.
because he
All of 'em
takes
are-
the bad guy from the top of his ivory towers
Down into the muck.
down through the bowels, destroying everything in his structure on the way down until he gets into the sewer and just
Yeah.
throws his face and he eventually just dies in the shit and the waste of his own
It's
dystopia.
it's
Yeah.
poetic justice. I would either say that one or Blood and Snow.
This one too.
Because Rafts is really cool because it's like I'm full rage. I'm going in. I'm gonna cut the head off the snake. I'm going for the leader. I'm gonna
Blood
end
and
this.
Snow is the
Is this the pretty
Splinter
cover?
and
Is the
Donatello.
401.
But
Yeah.
this one is like you
Splinter
get
and
this
Donatello.
really cool father son back to back. Like there is literally nothing else in this world but you and me right now, and we have to kill everything else. And it's like it's heartbreaking again that they die, but it's really cool that it's them against everything. And the fact that they put more than a dent into it is also really nice.
See, there's some of that old school art
I
style.
love it.
So this is where he after they die, he just goes on a lone wolf kind of voyage. He just walks. He's like,
yeah, you've really Forrest Gumped it.
it's more it's like an old like trope of
Damn,
Japanese style.
Is legit.
I don't know.
forget,
I don't know what they call it, but he goes through his own like banishment. What is it? Leo has to do it too a couple times. He just like gets sent out for training, and they say it a couple times, but they're like, oh, you have to be out on your own in the forest so you can learn how to be a better leader. But that's exactly what Mikey does. Is like he puts his head down and he gets his work done. He's like, I have to face everything that I can so I can be ready to face the end.
yeah. And then
Yeah,
we
this
also
is hardcore, dude.
Dude, coolest fight, right?
Look at they're all getting filled up with arrows, and then yeah,
Also, show Bill this panel real quick.
which one?
Just the whole page.
Oh.
So if you look in the pages, it starts white in the top left corner, and then even between all the panels is red, like it's filling, and it's the same color as the blood. So it's like even
Filling
between
it
the
with
panels
blood.
are it's
Oh,
filling
yeah,
up with
yeah,
the blood.
yeah.
Isn't that so sweet?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's
And it like really, it's because comics can't have music. Well, I mean, they can, but they can't have music. So it's really nice to be able to set the tone like that. Like instead of this is the intense battle music, it's I'm going to bring you as into this as I possibly can, which is also
And look
another thing
how-
that I
okay, I
really
want you
appreciate
to-
about it.
we talked about the art style changing. Look at how it goes from this memory to
Oh, the bucket hat.
this memory,
Mm-hmm.
and then to this.
And then to the modern. Yeah.
And then it all looks just flip back a few pages.
So rad. They
And
did
it-
such a good job.
Like, and it's subtle, and you might not even notice, like, between, like, the, the battle with
Mm-hmm.
Splinter and Donatello to, like, the modern day, and, like, it's
Intelligent fan service.
it
once
kind of
again.
looks, it could look the same kind of to you, but it totally is not the same.
Yeah, totally different. Like if you get so wrapped in the story that you're like, well, it's all turtles, but you take a second to look at how the art
And
style tells the story too. Like,
That's crazy. Yeah,
highly
that, like you
appreciate
said,
that.
sets the tone
mm-hmm.
without having music. Instead, you change it visually, and you can really pull apart like where you are in the story just by the art style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did such a good job with this. They did such a good job with these books, this whole story. 4, we get Honeycut and
So we get the plan to take out Baxter's warehouse, and
yeah,
kind of flashes forward to them making the plan, to them trying and failing to do the plan.
oh my
And then
gosh,
here's the next step, and then they fail at it. Here's the next thing, and then eventually April crashes through with her like souped up tank thing,
yeah,
saves the day, and then Fry,
Kinda.
yes, it does more than it does, saves their ass
mm-hmm.
probably once again, and
Yeah,
then they zap Baxter like a bug zapper.
Yeah, using that's when they use the
I don't
last of
remember this
honey. Is
part.
that when they use the last of Honeycuts?
Yeah,
Yeah, so Honeycut's a professor from the future, or from a different universe that the Krang had taken over, but Krang had an alliance with Shredder. So really, Shredder's taken over their universe, and for whatever reason, they know that the only people that can stop them are the Turtles. So Honeycut takes his mind, puts it into the robots, and then sends himself back in time because everybody is just getting executed in his world. So he sends his body back, or not back in time. Sorry, he sends his body to a different universe, to the Turtles, and that's how we get Honeycut in the story. And then he fights alongside the Turtles in different worlds and different dimensions, trying to stop Shredder at every turn that he makes. But it's really cool how it's always been a fight. Once Honeycut was introduced, it was a battle of the minds between Honeycut and Baxter instead of Donatello and Baxter. Because, Donatello was the tech guy, and then Baxter was like, I'm better at you than this. And then Donatello could finally focus on, I'm dealing with my brothers and fighting everything that we have to fight as a unit. And Honeycut was the only one who could really keep up with Baxter and his stuff, because he's from a different universe where they had advanced technology. So it's really cool to see that.
it's cool to see them bring in those like kind of cartoon villains.
Yeah, and it was like I felt vindicated that Honeycut's last hurrah was to take down Baxter. Like that felt right for me.
Yeah.
And also like a really good sense of foreshadowing how Honeycut had to give his life and his consciousness in order to stop his big bad.
That's pretty crazy, man. Like that's dope, man. I didn't know you knew so much about turtles. Like I
Yeah,
didn't know any of this.
This is my jam.
Hell yeah,
Turtles is my thing.
sweet.
and
So-
then that just rolls into the last book,
So
Last
perfect.
Ronin.
Oh, dude.
Oh my god.
And it starts out like
Just epic. I mean, it's it's
just from the
pushes
begin-
forward
just-
every
just-
page, every panel. It's like
just
a
from the
page turner.
from the
It's-
first page, as he's sitting there in Splinter's old room, and just kind of taking it in, and he's
Give it-
talking to his brothers, and this is where I was talking about. He's like,
yeah.
he's like, you guys are always bitching at me. He's like, it's even worse now that you're dead. He's like, and you know what? I want you to go. I want you to go away and never come back. And like it kind of goes through the panels, like never come. And then he's like back, and like he's looking around, and they're
they're
gone.
gone.
He finally, yeah, it's
because they're going, you're a fucking loser. Like, you should have done this. You should have
This
done
team's
that.
not ready for this.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, he's just. It's those guys are his subconscious doubt in
And-
him. And it's his subconscious doubt in himself, and he banishes that, and he goes, "I'm like absolute resolve," and he's ready, and it's like so different than what he does in the first
yeah,
book and the why he's doing it.
And-
like we said,
and for
it's
like
like
the
he's not going in to die; he's going in with a plan.
yeah,
And a purpose to like protect people,
and for
which is like what Splinter taught him to do in the first place.
yeah, for the interpretation that they're spirits instead of as the subconscious, they're 100% right. Their team was not ready. Like they
Well,
had.
he knows that. Though,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's-
So it's like it's the ragtag, like and as the brothers, they knew that because they were even just the four of them were such like a way better oiled machine. Like they were a way better fit team. I mean, you know, they're the brothers. They grew up together. They fought together literally their whole lives.
Trained
So-
for their whole lives.
And
for
that's
that,
why
yeah.
I like too in the death. That's why they had to be separated.
this you got to
So they can
remember. You
isolate
got to
the
remember
machines
this
to pieces.
mission.
Mm-hmm.
Like this mission in the last book was supposed to be all four of them.
Yeah,
It's like, and so he's taking on that mission all on his own.
yeah, and kind of
Which-
as all four of them,
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, exactly.
which is the whole like mask of the Ronin is like that. That's why I'm guessing this is why they did it like that in the first place. You know, they show him in a black mask holding all the weapons
Yeah,
because you're not supposed to know which turtle he is.
because he's all of them and
He is all of the turtles.
and none of them.
Yeah.
Just
Bum bum.
eventually.
He is Legion.
He is Legion. But yeah, I thought it was really cool because in that scene too, where he's like, "I want you gone forever." Not only does he finally let go of his brother's past and comes over his own subconscious, but like
Yeah, he
they were
throws out his doubt.
they were right. And as you read the comics, like there were parts in this I was like, man, are we gonna lose? Like, I know, like, you know, everybody knew the 5th edition was the last one, and in my head is like they have full rights and jurisdiction to make them lose. Like, my team does not have to be the winning team.
That would
And-
be fucked up.
Yeah, they'd
Well,
be.
he didn't win. He didn't live.
No, he won. He did what he was meant to do.
He wasn't aiming to
yeah.
live,
He wasn't
That's
trying.
true,
He
but-
wasn't concerned with being.
but
like,
he didn't.
living.
He didn't come out on top.
Yeah, he wasn't worried about living. He was worried about completing the mission.
And we only get like a couple pages of the calm before the storm, like where he's sitting in it's sitting in Splinter's room. It's
Yep.
like one of the few moments.
And then he's like,
that's
"Yep,
not
we're
action
going
in
in,
this book.
bitches." And then they start blowing shit up. And he tries to do a little distraction and like rocks half the building.
full domestic
It's
terrorism.
like a fucking giant explosion. He's like, "Oh, guess they know I'm here now."
And it's all, yeah. And in this one, it's cool because instead of reliving the memories of his brothers, he's carrying them.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, and like so, he's kind of fighting his way through. He fights that like deaf and blind guy with the giant sword.
It reminded me like a video game, and you had to beat
Yeah.
the first few sub bosses before you got to
he's
the big
mini
one.
bosses.
Yeah, the
He did
mini
fight-
bosses.
He did fight
Yeah.
a couple weird bosses.
He does have a checkpoint moment after those bosses, though. Like, there's
Yeah.
just that panel
Well-
where he's breathing for a second. Like, that's his checkpoint.
Let's talk about Shredder 2.0's suit.
That thing was crazy.
And
Bitchin'.
Like
not only
symbiote.
that, but like you were talking about his mom. And he's like walks up to the cryo chamber and he's
Yes.
like, you know, they're talking this shit, that shit about, you know, fuck you, I'll fight me, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walks up to the cryo chamber and it's like he's talking about his mom and then he just, what did he say? You said it, he's like, I kept her alive.
But he just killed her, or just like I don't remember
He
exactly.
said something before, but then he just smashes through the glass and kills her essentially.
Or make sure that she's never gonna be coming back.
And
Right.
it's also neat to see because we now have the juxtaposition of Michelangelo letting go of his whole
Yeah.
reason. Like, his whole reason for being is out of spite, but it's because he gets a new reason to live. Whereas his is, I'm out of spite for you, kills the thing, I'm out of spite for me.
Right.
Like,
He didn't free himself.
he didn't free
entombed him.
himself, but he did let go of what he was holding on to.
Yeah. Dude, poetic all over the place.
All
this
over the
shit,
place.
I'm
The
telling you.
storytelling is incredible.
But that suit he's wearing, I want to know what you thought of it, because what's the first thing I thought was like almost symbiote,
Yeah, a little bit. Just like the
But
liquid
not-
metal or T2.
or like Tony Stark's suit in Endgame,
It really reminds me
the
of
nanotech suit.
Yeah.
a later Baxter's body, because Baxter becomes like just a head for
Right.
a lot of the comics, and then he is like that nanotech, like Iron Man suit that is his body, which is what made him so hard to kill. And the reason they needed Honeycutt to do him was to shock him, so that way all his tech would fail, and then he would have 0 life support. So like that's and it really reminds me, it's like really symbolic of that. And I also like that they kept the shoulder spikes and the face piece, that like trying like that callback to OG Shredder.
Yeah, it does look like
Super nice,
old school Shredder.
but still very new.
And he had the fist knives
Yeah.
or pokies or whatever the fuck they are.
So sick.
The Pokies.
Dude, and it made him like crazy strong and
It had regenerative
a match.
properties.
Yeah.
He was almost had the advantage in that fight.
The last weapon, I totally forgot about this. I'm just looking at it now. The last weapon that he uses are his nunchucks. So
Yeah,
he carries
okay.
all. He
I
carries
was gonna
all
bring
four
this
into
up
the
is
battle.
like throughout the fight he uses each weapon and he says, and that one's courtesy of Raphael, and that one's for Leonardo,
Yeah.
and that one's for Donatello. And then he goes down into the sewer. And I was kind of watching the progression of the fight
Yeah.
as it went down levels, and I was like, "Oh, this is fucking some beautiful shit." Because like you said, at the end, he's in the sewer, like where it all started with his nunchucks,
Home turf.
and fucking just it was
And it's
beautiful.
Yeah.
I am God. No, you're not.
That part
Boom.
was so fucking cool. And then the Homeboy 2.0, he is like, "Oh, I surrender. Oh, I yield." And of course, he's fucking around and, gets a blow on. But that's right before they go into the sewer and he starts chucking him up.
Yeah.
And that part to me was the best part of that fight, was when they were in the sewer.
Or like how you had said earlier, Bill, how they were how he dies in the muck, but it is that progression of, I'm taking you from your comfort zone where I'm at a disadvantage,
Yeah,
and
down
I'm
into the
taking
shit.
you level by level to where I live.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see what it's like to go from the top of the palace to the lowest slum.
And he's going to get a shot in for each one of his brothers along the way.
Yeah.
So
Dude, I'm telling you,
good.
that fight was.
that
I was like I'm like, oh,
dude, my eyes were fogging.
So
I'm like
good.
turning the pages as hard as I could. He's
so
like,
good.
for every hit for his brother that he took, I was just like,
Yeah, and he,
man, that
in Raph, he got a stab through dude's hand because he found a way through his armor for a second, blowing up a grenade in his hand,
yeah.
and that blew away the armor for a minute, and he stabbed him in the hand with Raph's sai.
That was so sick.
And then he did something again to get rid of it around his midsection, and he stabs him with Leonardo's broken sword right through the midsection. And then to get away, like to get some distance in a defensive move, he smashes Donatello's staff on his face.
Yeah, and then it's finally like he has the nunchucks at the end, where it's kind of, instead of like a "this is for me," it's like "this is my comfort zone."
Yeah.
And then after they get thrown out into the muck, it's
Yeah, because dude's
man
like,
v man. Like this
dude's
is
like, "Oh, what, you gonna hide and shit?" He's like, "Ain't nobody hiding, bitch. You're in my house, motherfucker."
Yeah, and he kind of gives through physical force the same critique that he gives Casey, where it's like, you may be powerful, but man, you lack technique
Yeah.
and experience. Where Michelangelo at this point is nothing but technique and experience. Like he's physically dead. There is no way that his muscles in that fight would allow him to keep moving. But just because the fact he knows how to move and he knows that his opponent doesn't,
Right.
gives him that
Oh
tactical
yeah,
advantage.
he says right at the very end when they're standing there that he's like, I can't even barely stand,
Yeah,
but he still keeps fighting.
100% spent.
Yeah.
And it's grit. It's all grit. It's no longer because I want to die, and more of because this has to get done.
That's maybe one of the cooler fights I've seen in like a comic book period. You know what I mean?
So good. It's like storytelling through combat, which I really appreciate, and like the art is amazing. Like when his when his stuff like powers down, you notice his suit turns like white. And it's got like the red lines or whatever. And then like just also the the poetic justice of him pulling him out of his tower. Like, you can't hide from me anymore.
Pulling him down into the muck.
Whoosh. That's what it says right when he's pushing.
Yeah.
It in the sewer.
So April gets the fucking. By the way, they're fighting in the sewer. Meanwhile, April is in a scuba suit, welding on and fixing the pumps.
The sewers, because the sewers
because
flooded.
they flooded the sewers in an effort to like flush them out.
No, the power outage.
Oh,
outage,
okay, yeah,
they
yeah,
knocked out the power, and the side effect was the pumps.
Yeah, so she
Didn't pump
ends
the
up
water
getting
out of the
them
sewer.
working,
Yeah.
and a side effect is it like clears out the area and like the hideout, but the fucking tube that 2.0 and Mike are fighting in gets flooded and flushes them out, as Bill's looking at on the page here.
So cool.
Into the muck and the fucking dirt and radiation and all that.
The other important thing that happened in the sewer scene with April and Casey is Casey reveals to April that
She knows.
she's a mutant.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why didn't you tell me? Blah 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 blah. But
Yeah, that's kind of
that's-
whatever.
it was important way to wrap that up a little bit to the next.
To close it.
Right.
And I think it wasn't too much. It made sense, but it
But in case
was a little bit of meat or
Yeah.
something in there to get between the action.
And also, yeah, so like that little heartfelt thing in another piece where like her and her mom could connect a little bit. I think that was like really nice to see because, April's like, man, this girl's wild. Like she's so much like Casey is kind of like her thing is like, oh man, she's so much like Casey. But for them to have a moment together is really nice.
And my favorite part, not that it's my favorite, but when Michelangelo actually dies,
Right.
both April and Casey are there, and he hands her the book that says "No peace," because before
he
it said
wants-
"No vengeance" or "No KNOW."
Yeah, that's his.
Yeah.
He's like, you can learn everything in there from Master Splinter, but the last lesson is from me, and it just says no peace, and not like N-O, but KNOW. Like,
knowledge,
he wants her to
Yeah.
know.
the knowledge
peace.
of peace.
So it's like, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's his last words.
So, and that's in essence, it's so good, right?
Dude,
And
my
so-
heart.
But then you get the scene.
You get
Where
you get
it's
you
like
get
the
a
heaven
you get a
scene.
flat line, and then it goes back to kind of all the bright orange and yellow colors and is
But then turn to the next page, and then you get Casey talking to April.
Yeah.
and then we get the modern.
Casey's training.
Shows her training, but then the important thing is on the very last page, and they're making new.
And there's a little
Turtles.
new turtles in the little.
And she's like,
Yeah.
I have
aquarium.
so much to teach you.
Which is like where the cheese comes in, but like
I think that's
what's a good
amazing.
what's a good
the-
sandwich without cheese?
I fucking no
you
shit.
need the cheese a
I
little
fucking
bit.
that part to me was like, oh, I love that.
It had to be there.
I
It was
loved
it was the heartwarming end because you
Yeah,
know
you gotta
Mike-
have a ray
Mike-
of sunshine in there. It can't be just a big
Mikey finding his peace, I think, may have torn me down almost more than the deaths of the brothers. Like him living, like waking up as a 13 to 15-year-old again, like having lived this whole life
and
in a
basically
dream world.
being in the world of our childhood,
Yeah,
in the cartoon
like that made me.
Ninja
Cartoon
Turtle
era.
world,
Yep.
and that's like it takes you all the way back, like to the beginning. Full
I was
circle.
like square mouth, snot nosed
Dude,
mess, bro. I was crying. I was like,
teared up.
ah, and then
The rebirth.
and then the rebirth is really cool. It's nice because it both ties and leaves it open ended enough for the imagination.
And then those turtles get to grow up in a little more peace, maybe, and like learn the same kind of things that the turtles did, but
They'll get a better life than I think
they'll
the
have a
original
better
four.
life.
Yeah, did the turtles grew up in peace too, kind of. They had to hide because they were like mutants in the sewers or whatever. It's not like Shredder was really after them quite yet.
Right.
But because you don't really get to see Shredder until the Foot Clan start acting up, which is what lures the turtles out he's like, oh man, all this crime is super rampant in the city. Like, we got to do something about that because that's what we were taught to do.
Yeah, the original mission of the Turtles.
Yeah. But so they'll grow up in a whole different era of peace. If
That would be cool.
it'd be really cool.
It is like a really happy ending for sure. Like sad,
He said,
poetic, but happy
Yeah.
in all the right places. I think it hits all the notes. I think really, if I was gonna score this thing like 1 out of 5, I'd give her a full 5.
Yeah.
What do you think?
yeah.
Yeah?
Even out of 10, a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Yeah,
because
it's a
It
fucking
wins the
home run.
100%.
As far as comics, delivery, well written, great art,
Every
meaningful,
book, like you said,
and it all
every book
connects.
has action. Every book has essential story. None of it's filler.
Yeah, it's
Like,
done
and
right.
it ends on like maybe the only way it could have. Like,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
how else are you gonna end it?
Especially with the way the tone that it starts. And I think that's the important thing. The tone that it starts in the first book carries throughout. The same things that we've just said, but it's one
But
fluid piece.
Yeah.
the subtle change in his mission and just like the shift in mindset, like he was basically suicidal and wanted to die in the beginning, and then just that
It was like false
that-
justice to real justice.
yeah, like he was really completing the mission that he was, trained to complete,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, yeah, I'm gonna give her kind of a shot and maybe I'll kill this guy, but I really hope I just die.
And it really goes back to what Bill said about short stories, like the side pieces, like
'Cause you get a beginning and end, and you get a full,
you get a whole story.
you get to wrap it up in a nice tight way, and it totally does.
And they sold shitloads of alternate covers too, so they made their money.
There. Oh, have you looked at the art for the alternate covers?
It's crazy.
There's
There's some
so many,
awesome
but
ones.
there are some like really, really good pieces in there.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah,
Worth it.
definitely.
This book is worth it 100%. Even if you've not read it and we just spoiled all of it for you,
There's so much we didn't.
We need
you
like
need to experience this.
we need like a Comic Zone approval rating. So
Re-
are we
100%.
do we do a
Reading
10
list.
out of 10 or is it a 5 out of 5?
We need some dorky symbolism, like I don't know,
So
2 Spocks and a
your
Kirk
face.
Oh man,
in my face.
in my face. We get a full Bill. We get a full Bill
Yeah,
beard.
they're all bills. Like
We get it. I'm gonna
From
do
you-
it by your beard length, and we get a full beard.
No,
This
from-
is
like him grinning to him frowning or like to him crying. So like one is like Bill crying.
in a
10 like a 10 or a 5 is like him like
also Bill crying, but out of joy.
grinning, yeah, crying like of happiness,
Yeah,
and then everything in between.
Which is how this book ends because it makes you cry out of sad. It's cool because you get to develop with the
It
characters
hits-
in the story because you're crying the whole time, but at the end you're finally crying tears of joy instead of
I don't think you ever
my
laugh
childhood is
though.
dead. There's like a couple moments where like the I always refer to them because they're the boys, but like where all the brothers are just being cynical and kind of dicks, and some parts where Casey's
Well, you
Caseyness
chuckle.
shines through, like where you see her dad. Yeah, it's like a little chuckle, like again the humor's very dark and it's very seldom.
Yeah, the book is intended to be very serious, and it is.
And it is a very serious book.
Mm-hmm. So where are we at on time here, Bill?
we're about that time to wrap it up here.
Hell yeah.
I can't play.
Perfect.
I
Wrap
can't
it
play
up,
my
wrap it
music
in.
on this, but
Let me begin.
No music?
no.
Okay, well, I'm going to just do it right now. If you enjoyed this episode and enjoyed Raedyn and everything that we talked about, don't forget to check out thecomiczone.com. We have links to every single episode we have there, we also have links to all the places you can get the podcast. Bill's running the Instagram. I got the TikTok and Facebook. It's got the memes. That's really about all there is to that,
That's
Yeah.
right.
because that's all we get as far as action on Facebook, and that makes me sad. So we're a little ashamed with you, Facebook, and all you people there.
You need to share us more.
Yeah, or like
But you
our
can't
shit.
share.
Share the page, tell your friends.
Like our shit, you bunch of fucking haters.
Rate us on iTunes or Spotify. Give us those stars.
Give us the 5 stars. Listen
and
when they
subs.
come out.
We need some subs. But anyway, this has been the Comic Zone. Thanks for being on, Raedyn.
Thank you
we
guys
really
for having
appreciate
me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, you guys,
Bring
and
your turtle knowledge.
letting me geek out about my
it.
things.
Dude, you
It's
did
like
have a ton of knowledge.
the pure reason of this podcast. I feel like it was just to let people geek out about what they geek out about. So thank you very
Absolutely.
much for letting me have that.
Hell yeah, buddy. All right. Peace out, homies.